Hi everyone. Hi Joovy family. It's Fiorella. It's been a long time since I've seen anyone. I am on here today to do a fun Q&A with sleep expert Susie. She'll be joining us shortly. Over the weekend we collected some questions. We got some good ones here, so I am hopefully ready to get going. Okay, I got Susie joining in right now. Susie, by the way, is a wonderful sleep expert. She has her PhD in sleep training and behavioral development, and here she comes. Let's have her jump on. All right, here we go. Susie will be joining us now. We're here to answer some questions, so we got some over the weekend. Hey, Susie.
Hi.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
So I'm so excited to have you on. Thanks for taking some time to sit with us. We had some great responses over the weekend, some fun questions. Real quick, why don't you give us some background about yourself?
Sure. So, thanks for obviously the initial introduction. So I have a background in applied developmental psychology. So it's not clinical. I don't do therapy or anything like that. Basically, my practice is grounded in evidence-based research. So looking into things like sleep and applying it into real life situations. And I also have a certification in pediatric sleep and child behavior. So they both go hand in hand moving into the toddler years with the bedtime battles and the big no's that we get. So that has been really, really beneficial in, the whole sleep world too, let alone just raising my children. So,
right. You got a heads up from the rest of us.
Yeah. So that's my background. And then I basically started my practice when I had my son in 2012. So, I've always been in the kids world in terms of working with children, ever since dating back into my high school years. So I kind of always knew I wanted to work with kids, but my role and how I've done so has changed over the years. And when I had my son, I knew so much about development, and sleep was a whole different category of development. So, I was one of those moms that, read all the books and the blogs and contradicting opinions and, advice from well-intentioned friends and family. And it was just, I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what was accurate information. So I ended up diving into the sleep research on my own. And had to sleep train my son at 4 months, which is, that like stressful moment where you're just like, oh my gosh,
what am I doing?
How is this going to play out? I would have been a lot better off probably if I had someone holding my hand through the process.
Right.
But I also knew the research, so I knew it was going to work. I know a lot more now, obviously. And then with my daughter, I started sleep shaping her, not sleep training, because as newborns, you don't, sleep train. Early on, like just getting into a good rhythm for her, because newborns aren't born with the same rhythms as older babies end up developing. But when you put those practices in place, once they get to that point, you're kind of already there. And
they're familiar with it.
And I was able to avoid sleep training in general. Well, the big sleep training.
That's amazing.
It is. I mean, yeah. So that's what my whole newborn practice is about, like getting parents in a rhythm, because, when you have your baby as a newborn, you just kind of, your world is turned upside down and you're not sure.
It's so different. It's such a, it's like jumping into freezing cold water. You think you're ready, and then you land in the water and you realize you were never ready.
I know. Yeah. Like you think, oh, you're planning it. I'm going to have kids then. I'll be more prepared. And then you're slapped across the face.
I love that. So real quick, just so everyone knows, Susie was a guest blogger in our latest Joovy magazine article, Proper and Safe Sleep. So check that out. The link is up in our stories now, and I'll make sure the link stays up for the next day or so you guys can check out that article. And it's just about, proper and safe sleep for newborns. So difficult when you have your first child. It's so hard to know what's right, what's wrong. There's so many fears and so much anxiety. So, it's a great article for kind of checking out what is the actual guidelines for your newborn. So like I said, link is up in the stories, and then we can dive right into some questions.
Yeah.
So let me pull this up. So we seem to have a lot of questions similar, but all around the same topic. So I'll get started in the beginning. Our first question was from a mom that says she has a 15-month-old baby that gets up multiple times a night. She's unsure as to why. She thinks it might be possibly stomach issues or stomach pains. Should she be changing his diaper in the middle of the night, or is it okay for him to sleep through the night in the same diaper? That's a question we seem to see a lot.
So stomach pains, are they having them during the day as well? Would be my first question. And always check your pediatrician, right? I'm not an MD, so I don't want you to ignore the fact that you might think there's stomach challenges. Sometimes what I often see is parents, those who are feeding on demand and it's more baby led, and you're feeding more frequently throughout the day. When I say frequently, I'm saying more like every 2 hours or so, or
like
snacking.
Those habitual snackers.
Yeah, snackers. A lot of times what can happen is that the milk doesn't have enough time to digest. So you'll end up having a buildup of lactose, and that can cause stomach pains and cramping, and all of a sudden you think you have a really upset baby or overtired baby, when in reality it's just some stomach pains because of that buildup that's in there. So you might want to start reducing the snacking at that point. And with a 15-month-old, a lot of it becomes behavioral. So they might be upset where it's not time for a snack. And it's kind of just, you have to be kind of that firm but fair. Oh, I know. And this is where that whole behavior side comes in. I know you really want a snack. You can validate them and then kind of move forward. Be like, it's not time for a snack now, but in 20 minutes, you can have some more milk, or offer them something else other than milk.
Right. Okay. And then the diaper part of it. So at what stage can you really say, okay, you're just going to sleep through the night in this diaper? And if you find yourself, God forbid, they like poop in the middle of the night, obviously you don't want to turn the light on because that just messes up the whole thing. So what's a good way of approaching, a middle of the night diaper change?
Yeah, I think, as long as it's not a poopy diaper, I typically err on the side of not changing the diaper unless they're leaking through and they're having a really full diaper. You want to make sure in the diaper, the little ruffles on the outside are flailed out. So really kind of move those out, because when they're tucked in is often when you'll get the leaks. So those are to prevent the leaks from happening. And if you have leaks, you can also get a diaper liner. I think Posey has them. You can get them on Amazon. So that's really helpful. But really, middle of the night diaper changes don't need to happen unless it's a poopy diaper or if they have leaked out of their diaper. In which case, they might be just taking in too much if you have a couple night feeds happening. But with a 15-month-old, I would say they probably don't need a nighttime feed, and most likely not. They don't need a nighttime feed, in which case they can probably go through the night without the diaper change.
Okay. All right. That's good. So the next one is kind of similar. So a 6-year-old who has just such, I guess they're potty trained already, but in the middle of the night, they are leaking, they're having accidents, and it's happening multiple times a week. They've tried reducing the amount of water after a certain time at night, but the child continues to wet the bed.
So this is also something you can check with your pediatrician. I've had lots of families in a similar situation, and every child is a little bit different. And even when I spoke with several pediatricians about this, some kids just take a little bit longer to get through the nighttime. So one thing to do is grab one of those larger pull-ups for them. The nights that they are dry, really praise, right? Like, wow, way to go. Look at your bed's dry tonight, or your pull-up is dry tonight, right? So kind of go over the top there. And try not to make a big to do about it. Like they have, wetting their bed. Some families are like very adamant about getting that bed dry because,
Mhm.
they're 6 and they should be dry, right? You don't want to put that pressure on your child because it's going to get them more anxious about it and probably not help the situation. So
Okay.
you can always check in with your pediatrician. I know some cases there is a medication you can take to reduce it's called enuresis when you have nighttime wetting. But at the same end, like they are going to grow out of it eventually.
Mhm.
And have it be like a work in progress. Like,
Right.
let's and talk about it. Like, oh, what do you think we could do tonight to like remember? And you can try waking them up in the middle of the night. I remember doing that with my kids when they
Like
were
setting an
younger.
alarm for yourself.
Yeah, like before you go to bed, if you're going to bed on the later side,
Hmm.
wake them up. My son used to be like pissed off at me when I'm like, I don't know, forget this. I don't want to even deal with this, right? So,
Right.
you'll know your kid's temperament well if that works. And for some families, it works really great. And they kind of just grow out of it. So, work
Hang
with
in
your
there.
child. Ask your pediatrician about it if you're comfortable with medication. I never went down that route. There's also bed alarms if you want to go that route. But at the end of the day, I mean, they will grow out of it. And I've even had a pediatrician tell me she's had someone as old as 12 years old, like
Mhm.
go that far until like it's, cleared away. So just have patience is
Okay.
my best bet and support your little one through that.
That's
That's not
isn't that the answer to
uncommon.
most parenting? Just be patient.
It is, right? I mean, patience is such a virtue. You really learn that lesson. But just know that it's not uncommon. So, and I think that's like our biggest worry is that, you hear,
I'm doing something wrong or
I'm
something's
doing
wrong.
something wrong or something's wrong with my child. Like this should be taken care of by 4 years
Right.
of age. And that's not necessarily the case.
Right. So the next question, this one was a tricky one. When I saw this, I went, "Oh God." So this person has 3 kids. It's a set of twins who are 2 and a 4-year-old, and they all share a room. And they are, I say she, but it might be a he. They
Okay.
are asking, what's the best way to kind of tackle nighttime? Should they be putting down the twins that are 2 and then the 4-year-old? Or should they try and put them all down together? Because currently what's happening is that they rile each other up and they prevent each other from sleeping.
Yes, I would say as long as bedtime. So my kids share a room, by the way, so I know the situation. The riling, the riling each other up, especially
Right.
when one wants to go to bed and the other gets angry about it. So it sounds like as long as it depends on how long the 2-year-olds are napping, because sometimes their bedtime might be later if they're taking a really long nap, in which
Mm-hmm.
case the 4-year-old might go to bed earlier. Um, on the flip side, if the 2-year-olds have missed their nap, they can go to bed probably as early as 5:36, and the 4-year-old will kind of roll right in through there. So really, you want to think about the napping that's happening because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes if the 2-year-olds are napping, it's going to push their bedtime later, in which case the 4-year-old will go to bed earlier. And kind of work around that based on what's happening, what's that wake window for each age group, the 2-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and 4-year-old. And every night might be a little bit different, which also causes challenges in terms of, but wait, like they go to sleep before me
Right.
and I'm older, or things like that. And so maybe have turn taking, kind of based on if you have some rhythm in terms of when the 2-year-olds nap versus not nap,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a prime age for them to start skipping naps, even though they still need them. And you'll find that like big crash early in the evening
Mm-hmm.
where they're just falling apart. That's when you want to get them to bed as soon as you can. So really play
That
around with
actually,
it, but try and keep it separate would be my suggestion. Absolutely.
that takes us into our next question, which is my 2/3-year-old has stopped napping consistently. She'll nap here and there. It's impossible to tell if she's going to nap. I would be fine taking her off the nap, except she becomes a crazy person from 4:30 to bedtime around 6:30, 6:45. She obviously needs the nap because she screams and she tantrums. What should I do?
Yes. So keep offering the nap. Absolutely. You're absolutely right in that she still needs her nap. This sounds exactly like my daughter at that age. To the point where what you want to do is on those non-napping days, and you know around 4 o'clock, like what's coming, like, oh, you seem really tired. And like when she falls apart, he's like, yeah, you didn't nap today, so you're really tired right now. So they're going to equate this meltdown with being
this
tired.
Bad feeling.
So eventually she'll be able to start saying, I'm really tired. And to the point where my daughter ended up getting up. I would move dinner early, do dinner at like 4 o'clock because she's going to melt down at 4:30. And kind of just move. Sometimes my daughter put herself to bed at 4:30. She got up from the dinner table, and I would just say, why don't you go rest on your bed until you're ready, right? And she would pass out for the night, right? So that's not everybody's child, right? Oftentimes they'll wake up or just like what you want to do is help them come down from that situation and understand that they're falling apart because they're tired and didn't take a nap, and you totally understand why they're upset. And so always offer the nap. If she doesn't take it, just be prepared for that meltdown. Move dinner earlier and bedtime early as again, 5:30 is a-okay for them to go to bed. And sometimes it might even be earlier depending on your kid.
What's going on?
Yeah.
The next question was the best nightlight and blackout curtains on a budget.
So I did, I love this one for my daughter's room because we have these wooden blinds, so you can see a lot of light that comes through. I did black trash bags on the window, like, you look like a little crack house from the outside.
Quite a small budget there.
That's like super cheap. I did it. I've also done a shower tension pole with a dark blanket with chip clips on the side, and then you kind of tuck them in. So those are like super creative ways. There's also the baby, so you can get these on Amazon, the baby travel blackout blinds with suction cups. They're amazing. You can travel. So they have suction cups to the window. They're very big. So if you have a big window, and they just suction to the sides of it, and it makes it super dark. And then you can put it in your suitcase and take it with you.
You can take it to grandma's.
Yep.
Oh, I love that.
So those are really great. Those are called, again, the baby travel blackout shades with suction cups, and you can find them on Amazon. As far as a night light, so you want to be careful with a night light because you don't want it to be a blue light. And by a blue light, I mean a white light, a white light or blue, because of the type of light wavelength it emits. And we don't want it to mimic that from the outside because it tricks our brains into thinking it's daytime and actually suppresses the production of melatonin. So you want it to be like a brownish, orangish color. And for that, you can just buy a bulb that is that color and replace it in a typical nightlight. You can also get one of those Himalayan salt lamps. That are orangish brown. It's also supposed to ionize the air and make it clean and fresh. So those are some really good cheap options. And then like the big purchase that I like is the Hatch Rest night light that you can actually control from your phone. Nice. And it works as a great toddler clock too, like as a wake up clock. To tell them like it's when it turns pink or blue, whatever color you choose, it's time to get up in the morning.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then you can control it from your phone.
I like that.
Good one.
So
but that one's on the more expensive side, obviously.
Well, we got some range here. I like it. The next question I actually got a couple times, so seems to be a really important question for people, is kind of right out that 12-month period what would be the ideal sleep schedule? I have a lot of people that have saying, I have a kid who's taking 2 naps, and I can tell that they're ready for 1 nap. How do I transition? What's the ideal sleep schedule for that age?
Yeah, so 12, 13 months is on the earlier side to drop down to 1 nap.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, babies or toddlers don't drop till closer to 16 to 18 months, and 14 months is early. So it's not to say it can't happen, but what's going on at 12 to 13 months is a huge, huge developmental leap. And there's several of them. And sometimes they're happening back to back. And when they happen, naps are skipped. So that's when families think that, oh, my child's dropping a nap, rather than keeping the nap there. And then slowly you'll watch them start taking it again here and there. And then it will come back into play. So you still want 2 naps closer to like 9, and that somewhere between 12 and 1 time, depending on how long that, first nap is.
Right.
And before you even drop down to 1 nap, let's say they're skipping that second nap, I would start capping that first nap shorter before completely dropping the second nap.
Okay. So the ideal wake up time for, a 1-year-old is what time?
In the morning?
Yeah.
Between 6 and 7 a.m.
So waking up between 6 and 7, and then first nap at
9.
9.
Mm-hmm.
About an hour, hour and a half. Second nap is what time?
Between 12 and 1. Usually 12:30 is a sweet spot for most.
Right. And then bedtime, 6 o'clock-ish.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So if you're getting a good, if you're getting a good second nap, let's say 12:30 to 2:30, you can probably work on more like a 6:30 bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
If they're skipping that second nap, I do a 5:30 bedtime.
5:30 bedtime. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And
anytime the last nap of the day is missed, I say 5:30 bedtime.
Move it up. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, just to reiterate, if your child is, what if I had a couple people also comment like, yeah, they nap, but like 30 minutes at the most. That seemed to be a really popular one.
Jillian's saying the hatch is amazing. I agree. So 30-minute crap nap, right? That's what I like to call them.
I remember last time you said that's junk food sleep.
So well, junk sleep's a little different. Junk sleep is when you're napping at the wrong time of day.
Okay.
Which, can also lead to all sorts of crap naps too.
Mm-hmm.
But the crap nap in of itself is a brief awakening in their sleep cycle that they just, for whatever reason, woke up from and are having difficulty transitioning, which is why we like the room to be dark, so it's easier for them to transition, because when you have that brief awakening, many open their eyes, scan their environment, and go back to sleep. So if they're opening their eyes or there's sound or something that fully wakens them up, it's a lot harder for them to get back to sleep because they've taken the edge off. And so naps are a lighter stage of sleep and often harder to fall back asleep too. So what you want to do is kind of give them an hour crib time. Regardless if they've only slept for 30 minutes, they have 30 more minutes. Give them that full hour to see if they'll fall back asleep, especially if you're working on naps, right? You really want them to work on that nap. And so you have to give them the opportunity to work on it rather than ending it right away.
Okay. So the ideal nursery looks how? As far as the lighting and the whole situation, paint that picture for us.
So you have a crib in there with just a mattress and a fitted sheet with nothing in the crib in terms of blankets, pillows, loveys, right? It's nothing's in there for safety purposes, not even a mobile hanging over, because that's entertainment. And so we want to give them the best opportunity to sleep and not have any distractions. So the mobile can be somewhere else in the room. We just don't want it right over the crib for them to get distracted by if they wake up from one of those sleep cycles.
Okay.
So that's in terms of the bedroom. You want it to be cool, so somewhere between 68 and 72 degrees, because when they wake up in the morning or in those early mornings around 4 or 5 a.m., our body temperature, this is even for us too, naturally starts to rise to get us ready for the day and to wake up. But we also have a very big brief awakening at that point. So if our body temperature is too warm, it can actually wake us up and them up. I mean, I woke up this morning really hot and I was like, now I can't fall back asleep. So we want it cool to help keep their body temperature down at that hour. Dark, so you want blackout shades. You want to keep it dark, dark, dark. And that's why, because during those brief awakenings, something like light, temperature, and noise can wake your baby up. So we also want in that part white noise in there, or brown noise, that shh, that has no rhythms, no sounds, no oceans, no music, no lullabies during their sleep. Yeah, the static, because during that brief awakening, that will also, if there's any fluctuation, can activate their brain and fully waken them up, making it harder to fall back asleep. So cool, dark, quiet, crib, safe, done.
I love it.
And then you want your changing, you know, all your systems in place for like your changing pad and your diapers and your wipes. And if you need a little like brown light there so you can see what you're doing, to come in and change them or feed them. But whenever you do that in the middle of the night, you just want to keep it as boring as possible and not start in this like big dialogue. Oh, hi, you're so cute, right? Even though we want to do that. That's just, we want to communicate that it's nighttime. And by that, we don't talk to them so much.
Yeah. Keep it quiet. I gotcha.
I mean, you can say like in a whisper, hi, let's change your diaper or something like that, right? But
I love changing diapers. I'm sure that's what people are saying at 3 a.m.
Well, if they're like screaming, crying, you're just, sometimes I say like, just talk to yourself, right? Because if they're screaming, crying, like it's more for you than it is for them.
Sake. Yeah, I gotcha. So the next one is, someone is saying, at what age should I switch my baby from a bassinet in my room to a crib in their own room?
Good question. So this is part what you're comfortable with. So the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends keeping your baby in your room for the first 6 months. And that they don't know why it's a protective factor and why there's a link there, but and I talk about this a little bit more in our article in terms of why we want to keep the newborns and the babies in the room. But really, they also have another research study that they say at 4 months, when you move your baby out of the room, you get those longer stretches of sleep at night. And I know this is absolutely true as well. So I would say 6 months based on the American Academy of Pediatrics. I can tell you my personal story. I have many families move their kids out at 4 months when they're starting to sleep train, just because it's an easier process. I've also personally been in the room for another family because they wanted to adhere to the AAP guidelines, and we slept trained him while I was in the room, and he slept through the night. So it can work either way. I also moved my daughter out of our room at 2 months of age. So it will really depend on what you're comfortable doing based on what the AAP guidelines say, based on what your little one is doing and how you are doing with your little one in the room. They will make lots of noise and sounds. And I don't want you guys to think in that newborn stage that just because they're grunting and making noise that they're up and they need to be fed. Unless they're like really crying, that's when I would feed them. Otherwise, see if they'll go back to sleep on their own. They smell us, they know we're there. We have a sensory system that they can, engage with us in the room, which is why they say let's keep them in the room, because it also keeps them in a lighter state of sleep, because they know we're there, which is supposedly to be a protective factor against SIDS, keeping them in a lighter state of sleep. So it's really what you're comfortable with. But if you're planning on sleep training, it is easier to sleep train in a different room. So
Right.
whether if you're keeping your baby in the room, you yourself can move outside of the room and then do it that way. Or move your baby out of the room, or you can do it in the room. So whatever you're comfortable with. AAP says 6 months. Most families I have worked with do it at 4 months, I would say.
Okay. Our next question is about, it sounds like this person has a kid that's waking up 3 times a night. They're waking up at midnight, at 3, and then again for the final wake up at 7. So they're asking for tips. I feel like that one we might have to
Do we know how old?
Your, it says 7 months.
Oh, 7 months. Okay. And are they feeding them each time, or are they just waking up? Do we know anything?
No, it didn't say. So if this question was you, we probably need some more background info. So be sure to check out. This is a great spot for you to let us know about your workshop you mentioned to me.
Oh, yes. Thanks. So I have a healthy sleep workshop where you can see the link in my bio at healthylittlesleepers.com. I'll be opening the doors for it soon. And basically it's my one-on-one consult that I do with my clients online, live with you, where there's a Q&A afterwards, but I take you through everything I go through with them, and then some, right? Because you guys are all coming in here with like your own nuances, pacifiers, swaddles, feeding throughout the night. Do you want to get rid of it? Do you not want to get rid of it? So I take you through all of that. It's all uploaded into a member site for you where you can rewatch the video if you can't attend live. You have access to it for a month. You have all the downloads accessible to you, including what you want to do or how you want to help your little one in the middle of the night. Because part of that is there's not just one option about how to sleep train your baby. It's not about closing the door and letting them cry. That's not what I'm going to be telling you what to do. There's variations of the level of parental involvement and how you can support your little one through the process and maintain that emotional connection. So I give you various options. I take you through what they look like. I detail them out for you step by step. So you get to choose what you want to do based on what you're comfortable with and what you know your little one might be successful with. And we can talk about, you know, what that might look like for you in the Q&A. So everything is there for you to put your customized plan together. And maybe it's about dropping pacifiers, or maybe you're in the space of ready to drop a nap. So we have downloadable guides about crying, nap transitions. There's a whole nap transition guide for you for all ages. So, you know, if you're on the younger side, you'll have them for the older ages too.
Yeah.
Download
and then we'll have on your computer.
And sample schedules. So what a typical day looks like for your aged baby. So it's all there for you. And I'm going to be opening the doors soon again. So you can get on the, I guess, wait list or join for the next workshop, and you'll get an email within like this week about when doors are opening and how to get access. And I limit the amount of people so that we can, you know, have a really good back and forth.
One-on-one time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last question we had, which I feel like you kind of answered there with the workshop, but just to throw it in there, this parent was asking about different styles of sleep training. They have tried the cry it out method, and it's not something they're super comfortable with. So they're looking for another method to train.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of different methods. I think, you know, one thing to be clear about, regardless of what method you choose, there is going to be crying. So there's no cry solution. But there is, you know, our babies cry in terms of their communication, right? So when they're crying during the process, you can be in the room the whole time. Heck, you can be holding your baby if you really want to. I don't recommend that. But let's say they're used to you rocking and you don't want to pull the plug right away. So maybe it's just like, excuse me, instead of rocking them at first, you're just holding them, right? So you're going to peel the layers away more slowly. It's going to take a longer time, but you're going to do what feels comfortable for you and what they can be successful at. So you can be in the room. You can do checks on your little one. Everyone's like, how long should my checks be? Guess what? It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. You can do every 5 minutes. You can space it out 5, 10, 15, the typical Ferber method. So whatever you choose to do, the most important thing is that you're consistent, because that in and of itself is building trust with your baby. That is maintaining connection. The fact that they're crying out of protest because they're used to having sleep done for them, and they just don't know how to fall asleep on their own yet. It's almost like if your doctor, you had a bad neck and he said, oh, what pillow do you sleep on? And you're like, oh, I have these 2 great like cozy pillows that I like bundle up and snuggle and put my head on. They're like, yeah. You know, you got to get rid of those and lie flat, or use this orthopedic, neck pillow. And you toss and turn for the first week because you're not used to sleeping that way. That's exactly what's happening with your baby. They're used to sleeping a certain way or falling asleep a certain way, that when you bring in something new, they're just not familiar with it yet. So it's just about being consistent for them and know that it will come together.
And that patience we were talking about.
And the patience. And just know, because I mean, the crying pulls at your heartstrings, and all we want to do as a parent is fix it for them.
Pick them
right? So, and this is one thing, one of my favorite books is by Julie Lithcott-Hames, How to Raise an Adult. And she talks about basic life skills. And she talks, first we do it for them, then we do it with them, then we watch them do it, and then they do it on their own, right? So it's all 4 of those things that pertains to sleep, tying their shoes, riding a bike, making their bed, doing their laundry.
Later on homework and, school
all
assignments.
Of it, right?
Right.
So sleep is the first one. So first, we've done it for them. Guess what we have to do now? Now we're going to do it with them, right? We're going to maintain that connection. Then you're going to step back. And peel off the layers, so they do get that basic skill of learning how to fall asleep. Love it.
I love that. That's great. Well, I think that's all the questions we got in. Thank you so much for joining me. This was super helpful and informative as usual. Yay. I mean, I already have 3 grown kids, but I'm like, where was Susie? A few years back.
I know.
Again, guys, visit Susie. Her Instagram is Healthy Little Sleepers. Her website, Healthy Little Sleepers. She has a Facebook page too. So if you guys have any questions, head to her website. The article is up and live now on Joovy Magazine, Proper and Safe Sleep. So check that out. Feel free to jump on over to her page and give her a follow. And, she's super active on social. We always see her with super informative posts, helpful things. Today's daylight savings. I have 3 kids. I'm exhausted. So if you guys are feeling that way too, we all need a little bit of Susie in our lives.
And it's National Napping Day today. So I think we all deserve a nap.
I should take a nap, Susie? Go take one with my daughter. Thank you again so much for joining us. And thanks again for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.